This is how to take a 2023 KX250 from looking like this to a complete, ready-to-ride dirt bike. The first thing that we have to do is take these triple clamps right here, put some more grease in the bearings, top and bottom, and then we can put them on the dirt bike and tighten them down. All right, so now that we have the bottom and top bearing packed with grease, we can take the triple clamp and slide it up through the frame this way. We can put the top clamp on after that and tighten it down. So now we have the lower triple clamp on, and we can take the upper triple clamp after you tighten that nut. Set that on there, grab your washer, put the washer on, then you grab your nut, and then just tighten the nut to hand tight, and then we'll torque that down later. Now that you have that together, we can move to the rear end of the bike and put the swing arm on. To put the swing arm on the bike, you take these two holes and you put them right here in between the engine and the frame, and you take this bolt that I've already put a little bit of grease on, and then you start on this side and you push it through the frame going this way. Now, once you have the bolt through the frame and engine and swing arm, you can take your washer, put it on the bolt, then take your nut, put that on the bolt as well. And once you get this on, you can torque it down to 73.8 foot-pounds with your torque wrench. All right, so now that you have your swing arm on, it's time to install the linkage into the bike. Where this longer bolt goes on the frame side, this short bolt goes on the swing arm, and this medium-sized bolt connects these two pieces of the linkage together. This is what your linkage should look like when you have it installed correctly and torque all three nuts down to 44 foot-pounds. So now that we have the linkage on, we can take the rear shock and put it right here. And the longer bolt goes on top and the shorter bolt goes on bottom. Now, once you have the rear shock put in like this, you have the upper and lower bolt in. The upper bolt gets torqued to 30 foot-pounds. The lower bolt gets torqued to 26 foot-pounds. Now that you have the rear shock installed, we can take the radiators and install those on the bike as well. Big radiator goes on this side, little radiator goes on this side. You can't mix it up, they only go one way. This is how the radiators should look when you have them installed. And make sure when you put them on, you put your hoses on as far down as they will go, down to these little metal stops on all the coolant passages, and make sure that these clamps are on all the way and that there's a little bit of hose on the bottom so that it's not pinching and going to slip off the bottom of the hose. And also remember to route your coolant overflow down through the frame, out the bottom on this clamp on your engine, and out underneath the engine. Make sure you fill your cooling system up with coolant, and once you have that done, you can take your front forks, put them up in your triple clamps, make sure that this clamp's straight and that this top nut is loose. That has to be loose to do this. Take your front forks, slide them up through the triple clamp, and tighten these bolts just finger tight, and then we'll torque them down after. Now, once you've slid your forks up into the triple clamps, you have to make sure that the tops of these forks are exactly at the same height. And then for torquing them down, these triple clamp bolts, all 8 of them go to 17 foot-pound, and this top nut goes to 73.8. But when torquing it down, do these top or bottom 4 bolts first, then the top nut, and then these top 4 bolts to ensure good torquage. Now that you have the triple clamps torqued down, you can take your handlebars and install them onto your handlebar bar mounts on the top of the triple clamps. This is how the handlebars will look when installed correctly. Now we can take our front brake system and install that on the handlebars and down here at the bottom of the forks. This is how the front brake should look when you have it installed the right way. Make sure that you pull the hose tight around the fork guard so it doesn't get caught in the wheel. Make sure all the bolts are tight. And yeah, now we can move to the rear brake assembly right here. Now that you have the rear brake put on, now we can move to the rear of the bike and put on the subframe. This is how it should look when you have the subframe put on. And all this wiring, you have to make sure it's all in the factory locations. This is what it should look like when it's all wired up properly. Injectors down there, air sensor, regulator, battery, starter solenoid. Yeah. Now that we have the subframe on, we can take our gas tank and install our gas tank onto the bike. And when installing the gas tank, make sure you take your fuel pump wire, make sure that you plug it in. It's down right here, this little connector right there. So you plug it in there, run the wire on these clips around the frame and into the tank. Now we have the gas tank installed. One bolt here, gas tank strap here. That's all that holds on the gas tank. You just make sure you got your fuel hooked up and your fuel pump wire hooked up. Now that you have the gas tank on, we can go ahead and put the front and rear wheel onto the bike. Once you get the wheels on the bike, you torque the rear axle to 81.1 foot-pounds. You torque the front axle nut to 59 foot-pounds, and all four of these front axle clamp bolts to 17 foot-pounds. When you put the chain on your bike, make sure that on the master link, the clip is pointed in that direction. So then if something clips it, it doesn't pop off. And then make sure you can get a healthy 3 fingers from the end of the chain guide. 3 fingers in between the chain and the swing arm. Now we're ready to put this header onto the engine, just like so. Now it's time to put this muffler onto the end of the exhaust system. And remember, don't tighten down the 2 header nuts until you have the full exhaust system on. You got to put the rear fender on before the exhaust muffler. And now, once you've gotten to this stage, just put all the plastics back on the bike. And yeah, make sure to put in a fresh, clean air filter that is well oiled and greased. All right, and there you have it. This is what it should look like when you are done. Hope that this was a helpful video.